Welcome to another episode of A Come Together. Josh Devore, you got it just in time. Thanks so
John.
much for coming.
I was like Jon Devore.
Jon Devore. Jon
Yeah.
Devore, welcome, man. I'm so happy that you came. This is so, dude. Uh, your website may make you look like the coolest person in the entire world. I
Sweet. I'll
think
take
that,
it.
yeah, I think that was great because just a little bit of context for how I found you. Um, I've always loved the entertainment world, and I've always loved not just consuming it, but understanding how things happen. You know, what pieces have to fall into place in order to make the magic happen. And and as I started doing the podcast and started talking to more and more people, I realized how important stunt work is.
Right.
You know, and so I made it. So I asked ChatGPT, give me a list of stunt people that do different types of stunts, whether it's martial arts or aerial or whatever it was.
Sure.
And so you're one of the people that popped up, and thank you so much for making the time. I appreciate it.
Nice. Good to hear. Chat knows me.
There you go. Well, I mean, I think it works in the same thing as Google, right? I think
Yeah,
or
for
similar
sure.
data,
For
right?
sure. Yeah.
Mhm. So John, you're so I wanted to, there's a bunch of different topics I wanted to kind of talk to you about, get your thoughts on. Um, I wanted to start actually with the fact that you're from Alaska, which I feel like is not too common over here, in the
Yeah. Only
domestic
about a quarter
U.S.
million people there. So yeah.
Something like that. How'd you end up? How'd your family end up there? What were you born there? What was that like?
I was actually born in Colorado, but as a baby, my parents moved to Alaska. So it was a very long story short on that one was my grandfather on my mom's side had an early age heart attack, and when he got better, his wife, my grandma, asked like, "What do you want to do?" You know, one of those like, "Let's change our lives." And he said, "I
Yeah.
want to go be a commercial fisherman in Alaska," because he liked fishing, but in Colorado. So they packed their bags and they moved to Alaska, and
Wow.
within a year or two of them being there, I probably tell the story a little wrong because I was only a baby, but within moments of time, my parents went to visit, and they did what happened to them happens to a lot of people that move there. Is when they showed up, it was summertime, and they had 2 weeks of beautiful weather.
Hmm.
And my dad went out fishing, caught king salmon. Like life couldn't have been better. So they then went home, and they were a young couple starting a family. Dad had an engineering company,
Hmm.
just starting though. But so they sold all that and followed my mom's parents to Alaska and chased the Alaska dream, which I couldn't be happier that they did because growing up there, I feel like I was born there because that's all I remember because I was a
Sure.
baby. But growing up there, I just feel insanely blessed. It's the opportunities that Alaska gives you everywhere from spiritually, physically, everything you do there it's a really special place compared to most places in the world. So I couldn't be happier that I grew up there.
That's so cool. So I only spoke to one other gentleman in my life. That actually that's not true. I've done some business in Alaska. I've sold some. I sell medical equipment. So I've sold some
Okay.
equipment in like Anchorage or to veterinary hospitals in the area.
Right.
But I had a buddy of mine that played basketball in Alaska for a year. He was in Vegas for his his college career, and then transferred to Alaska for a year. And one of the things that he talked about, he told me that other than the fact, obviously, that it's Alaska, he said that that socially and culturally, people are far more trusting of one another because it's a much more dangerous and small environment. Or
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah. You
so.
have to depend on your neighbor. Yeah.
Correct. And he's like, hitchhiking. He's like, if you don't pick up a hitchhiker, that person could be dead. I mean, within hours.
Right.
And so, I mean, but what spiritually, what do you feel is different about Alaska than the rest
Oh,
of the
I
country?
just mean, it was just a choice of words, but for me, the way it put me in touch with nature and
Hmm.
it solidified as a young kid that I knew that I needed to do something different than sit in an office and just do the normal adult life. You know, it's being out and about. In Alaska, you either get outside and play in the elements,
Yeah.
or you stay inside, get cabin fever, go crazy, and can't wait to move.
Yeah.
There's really not a middle point.
Yeah.
And obviously, as a kid, I was the kid that was always outside searching for adventure. And So everywhere from being in touch with, the empathetic parts of the human psyche of, caring for animals and nature and
Hmm.
the forests and just Mother Earth. I don't feel like, truth be told, I don't really feel like I'm giving that to my kids, raising them in Southern California where I live now.
I was going to
Um,
ask about
yeah, so it's,
that.
I have to live where I live for what I do,
Sure.
but yeah, I feel a little bit like you know, gypped my
Sure.
kids out of
Sure.
an
Sure.
experience because of that.
I totally gotcha. I totally gotcha. I mean, it's funny because I grew up. I'm trying to deviate my mentality I grew up in with from the rat race,
Yeah,
and I'm trying so hard to find a balance of living a life that's meaningful as opposed to a life that is material, and searching
tough
for
balance.
things that just pay the bill. Like bills need to get paid, but you
Right.
got to have some kind of sense of spiritual, emotional satisfaction, natural satisfaction as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is actually one of the reasons I moved. I mean, it's funny because it doesn't sound like it, especially coming from Alaska. I lived in Seattle for a little while. That was amazing.
Oh yeah, it's
Um,
Pacific Northwest. It's
Oh
almost the same,
man.
just more
Oh
developed.
my. Oh man. And I went actually. I'm so happy I did this. My roommate dragged me to the Cascades,
Mhm.
the national park by Lake Diablo area,
Yeah.
and I was just like, I didn't even know that this kind of stuff existed in America.
Right.
I was like, this is incredible.
Yeah. No, I love Seattle area, man. That's where my family lives now. Everybody that retires
Oh
from
yeah.
Alaska, they don't get much further than Washington or Oregon because
Yeah.
they still want that PNW feel. But
Yeah, I totally get that. It's funny because I've spoken to a lot of people, whether it's store owners or Uber drivers or whatever, that have told me over the course of my time in Seattle, they're like, everyone comes, he goes, if you get people at the right time, like what you said about Alaska, the right time of year, for like 4 or 5 good months,
right.
there's something about Seattle that just stays with people that actually keeps on calling them back and keeps on bringing them back. And he goes,
Yeah.
you'd be surprised how many people come for vacation and just end up moving there because it's so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to
So
balance it out.
so you grew up in nature. You grew up a little bit, completely separated by, with and really in the midst of it. How did you? Were you always a risky type of kid? Were you always athletic? Were you always
Yeah.
that kind of kid?
Yeah. Pretty much. Especially if you ask my parents or something, it's yeah. Ever since I mean, I started skiing as soon as I could. I think I was like four or five when I started skiing. I was
Hmm.
just always outside, as a young kid. When I was like, what was I, 14 or 15? Got certified to scuba dive, skiing, rock climbing. I was a river raft guide, you name it.
Wow.
Mountain biking, the whole thing. I just love being outdoors and all the way from camping to the extreme stuff. It's what.
How'd you make that transition? Did you always know that you were going to do something like this, or how did you start getting involved in professional stunt and
Yeah,
in aerial work?
yeah. It's a funny story, I guess. But so when I was a senior in high school, I basically wrote a paper. I had a dream that I wanted to invent my own business. I'll back up. I worked for a river raft company in the summer, and I
Okay.
saw, there's so many cruise ships that come in every day, and I watch people get very successful financially by figuring out how to tap into tourism.
Hmm.
So knowing that I wanted to be outside, I wanted to open my own adventure tourism company. I wanted to
Cool.
call it Choose Your Own Adventure, kind of like the books you read as a kid, where
Sure.
you get to the end of a chapter and you have to decide where to go. I
Yeah.
was going to build a company that people really didn't know what was coming at them, and they had to choose their next
That's so
adventure.
cool. That's so much fun.
So, as a senior in high school, a guy randomly came through our town offering tandem skydiving, and it was the first time it was ever in our town. And I was his first guy that signed up. My funny story is I had a fake ID, the only way I could jump because I was too young to jump.
Okay.
So I did a jump, realized I loved skydiving, but had no idea like how to get into it. It didn't exist in Alaska. But I knew that I wanted to offer tandem skydiving as part of my adventure tourism package.
Right.
So I quickly, was skipping a little bit of the story. I realized that, okay, I need 500 skydives to get my tandem license.
Okay.
And then I can come back home and take care of the rest of the stuff.
I
So,
can't imagine it's very cheap to do 500 dives, right?
no, I mean, it was a lot cheaper back then when I did it in the early 90s compared to today. It's a lot more, but skydiving's not cheap. But it's like any sport. It's once you get through the certification and once you buy
Yeah.
the gear, then it's not too bad. Like a day of skydiving without breaking down the numbers would be like a day of skiing.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
once you buy your ski gear and you got your lift ticket, it's you go. So
Gotcha.
It is expensive, but I worked really hard. I worked at a million different jobs, got paid pretty well as a kid because Alaska has a lot of great opportunities. So I'd saved up a lot of money that I thought I was going to use towards college, but I chased a girlfriend out of high school to a small little community college in Texas, just knowing that I needed to get my basic business associates at a minimum.
Sure.
So during that time,
Was that a
I
culture shock going from Alaska to Texas?
yeah, especially where I went. I could go into
Which
crazy
part of
stories.
Texas were you in?
It was like 2 hours out of Dallas in a little town, Navarro, Texas.
Okay.
She went there because of some cheerleading program. I went there just to follow my
Yeah.
girlfriend
Sure. Of
and
course. Yeah.
not go to school.
Yeah.
But that first semester, there was also a skydive center somewhat close at Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went and learned to skydive. And then I realized by talking to people there, like, holy crap, there's a whole life in an industry here. So semester one, I went back. I broke up with my girlfriend. I packed my car and I went back to Alaska with the idea of working one more stint at I had a job at a big silver mine there that paid, at the time I'm 18. So when I call it paid adult money, it paid
Yeah.
really well.
Sure.
So I worked there for like half a year, saved up a ton of money, and then packed my bags again and moved down to the largest skydiving center in the world, which is in Eloy, Arizona. It's kind of in the
Okay.
middle of Phoenix and Tucson.
Okay.
And when I rolled into the drop zone, within 1 or 2 weeks of being there, I realized, one, I was at the right spot. I kind of landed there on accident, just knowing that it was a place that I could jump in the winter, sunny, and
Yeah.
it looked big in the magazines. But I didn't know that I was going to the biggest place that was where the entire world went to train for all the nationals and world meets. So it was a crazy scene for me. And I quickly realized what was going on, and that was there was, in my view, what I saw the snowboarding world do to skiing when it came into the ski world in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning.
Yeah.
Something like that was happening in skydiving. There was this whole new discipline being talked about. People were trying to invent it, but couldn't really figure out how to do it yet. But there was this big momentum.
Sure.
And luckily,
What was it leading up to?
what today is called free flying, so vertical skydiving. It didn't
Cool.
exist then. It was just people on your bellies falling and building formations.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But there was this artistic kind of group of people from all around the world. Only about 10 people that were pooled together, trying to figure out how to get off their bellies, get vertical, and stay together.
Yeah. Is that
And
something that you figured out how to do eventually? That is something you
yeah,
learned?
well, I joined that group. Within that year of being there, I quickly was in that group. And so I became, I'm rushing through a little bit of the story, but within the first year, I was already recognized because I spent so much money jumping compared to most people. People thought I had a trust fund or something because I was just there throwing hundreds of dollars down a day just jumping.
Yeah.
But it got me to a skill level that I caught up to people that had been doing it for years within a year, because I did like 1,200 jumps my first year and
That's
got
incredible.
going fast. So yeah, I quickly became one of that group that is considered to be the pioneers of free flying. We invented a whole new discipline. And especially in that time of the sport, before there was vertical wind tunnels and things, people had to come to drop zones and hire coaches to get good.
Right.
And so I was one of those.
What goes into that, if you don't mind me
Which part?
asking? So can you
Which part?
break down, let's say, form when you're jumping, right? When you have a coach and you're skydiving or free flying, or either.
Yeah.
What are things that people do that would be wrong or right and why?
Well, it really depends on what skill level you're at. I mean, I've trained everybody from super beginner skydivers that
Sure.
are barely jumping out on their bellies, getting stable, and like, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed, to world champion people that are just trying to get a little bit better to go
It's
win
what the
their
art.
Yeah, so it really depends on where you're at. So
Okay.
somebody like me as a coach, I would meet you, I'd assess where you're at.
Right.
And then
Let's
it's
say it's
kind
me.
of,
I'm brand new. I've never done it before. I'm
yeah,
just a
so
dude.
I wouldn't start with you because I would go to your drop zone, go through the course to get certified.
Okay.
And so depending on how aggressive you are, but it could be like a long 4-day weekend if at a big drop zone. But once you get 25 jumps under your belt, the first 12 of which are with a coach and they're holding you and really hands-on. The last 12 are you're doing solos, but you're kind of getting comfortable.
Yeah.
But then after 25 jumps, you have an A license, which allows you to be a skydiver anywhere in the world. You have a little license. You're still a very new and regulated skydiver, but
Sure.
So once you get to that stage, I would then probably not try to like, you have so much to learn still. I could, if you just really wanted to hire me, I'd be like, I'll take your money. But what you really should do is go out and do a couple hundred jumps and just go explore. Jump with random people, learn how to fly. But once you get to a sticking point, you'd come to me. I would evaluate where you're at skill wise, what's
Sure.
going good, what's going bad, what are your bad habits, just like racing a car,
So what
skiing,
would
you
be,
name it.
yeah, so what would be some examples of, let's say, bad habits? For example, like, something, I just started rolling jujitsu recently,
Yep.
and one terrible habit that I have is that I keep my default is to have my feet flat on the floor, my legs flat on the floor, and every 30 seconds the coach is
I
yelling
was
at me,
like,
pick your legs up, pick
yeah,
your legs up,
yeah,
and it's a natural bad habit that I have to like I have to rewire and retrain my muscle
yeah,
memory to kind of So what are some things that people would do wrong or do wrong, and what would be the potential consequences? Or unless it's more of like a
yeah.
form and an art and a perfection kind of thing, where you're just like, this is just the
Well,
most
it's really all the
creative
above,
play.
but
Yeah.
it's kind of all the above. But to answer some of those questions, it's basically like somebody that's coming to me. Some of the initial bad habits that people go with was they think that because you're in 120 plus mile an hour winds, you need to control the air and be strong. So everybody's super stiff and rigid,
Mm.
where really skydiving is more like yoga. You want to be really flexible and fluid. You want to be strong enough to put your body where it needs to be to deflect the wind and move where you want to move. But if
Yeah.
you're using muscle, you're doing it wrong, and you're going to be like a 2x4 in the wind that's just like foo, foo,
Yeah.
flipping everywhere compared to being fluid and absorbing. So
Cool.
a habit of being like not breathing enough, being super stiff and strong, and
Hmm.
then a lot of it is form of body. Everybody finds a natural way where they think they need to be because they feel comfortable. Like my arms, I feel good here, or I feel good
Yeah.
with my legs like this, but it might be making a move around the sky.
Sure.
So kind of just like what you're saying in martial arts, breaking out the muscle memory that is probably wrong in them
Yeah.
and retraining the muscle memory of what's right and why it's right. So that's very beginner stuff. And then as you get advanced, it's much more of form, technique, and things of that nature. That's hard to explain if you're not jumping.
I gotcha. Yeah, but I think that's clear enough. So you're young. You dropped out of college. You're probably in your late teens, early 20s, I imagine, right? At this
I
point,
moved to Eloy when I was 19. So
that's crazy.
yeah.
So were you? Are you at this point? First of all, when you said that you packed your car, you drove from Texas to Alaska.
Well, I drove from Alaska to Texas, drove back from Texas to Alaska to work again, and then I
That's a
drove back from
crazy
Alaska
drive.
to Arizona. Yeah.
I did because I did the drive from New York to Seattle when I moved, and then I
Yeah.
was thinking about
I've done
driving
that
to
before.
Alaska when I was from there, and I was like, that's a whole nother trip from New York. That's a whole other
Yeah.
country that you have to drive up and
Yeah.
down.
Alaska's way bigger than people think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So what'd your parents say about all this, or did they have a say, or they didn't? Did
No,
they?
they were super supportive.
And it makes you
Obviously my
happy.
parents, they weren't adventure sports people at all like me, but
Uh-huh.
obviously they had a sense of adventure in their spirit to
Yeah.
pack their bags as young parents and move to Alaska.
Sure.
So they also, grew up in the 60s. They, call them like a hippie mindset
Gotcha.
where
Yeah.
their biggest thing was they wanted, I have a sister, they wanted us to just pursue whatever we were happy doing. It wasn't about chasing, like, you need to be a lawyer, a doctor, you don't have to chase the money. You got to chase happiness because that's in the end what it's all about. So
Yeah.
they saw I
Beautiful.
was happy. They saw I was doing what I was loving to do. So they were
That's
scared of what I was
amazing.
doing, but supportive.
It sounds great. It sounds scary. Like, and I guess, and very, very few accidents happen, or serious injuries happen, relatively speaking, while skydiving, right? That's pretty much the
Yeah,
same.
I mean it's insane how little true skydive accidents happen. I would say, and I'm making up a number, but I know I'm really close to like 90% of all accidents skydiving are when you're under a perfectly good parachute
Yeah.
and you do a pilot error, like you fly it bad into the
Mm,
ground or something like
sure.
that.
Yeah.
But in free fall and stuff, the gear, we have everywhere from little computers that pull for you. If, say, for some reason you were either being an airhead and you didn't even know what altitude you're at, or you're
Cool.
unconscious, or
So
everywhere
it
in the
doesn't even need
middle.
us to do that manual
I mean, you
pull.
really need to, but there is a automatic opening device that will save your life if you're about to go in, for sure.
Gotcha. Okay, so you're young and you're getting and you're doing this now. Are you into? did you get into the stunt world because you're a film fan or because you're a sports fan? Like,
A little
what
bit of
drove you to
both.
it? Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of both. So when I say like year one ish, two ish on the drop zone, when I really realized I wanted to try to figure out how to do this with my life, I kind of surveyed the landscape of professional skydivers, and I realized there's only a few people that, like I said, okay, who's 50s, 60s and has been doing this? And I
Hmm.
realized it was either the world champion type skydivers that had all the coaching and festivals and people booking their time.
Yeah.
And it was professional camera flyers that could
Hmm.
put stills or cameras on their head and get hired to do that work.
Yeah. My uncle
Or
did that,
it
as I
was
mentioned to you. Yeah.
yeah, or it was people that figured out how to break into the stunt world, which was obviously the most guarded because there was really like three or four people and they got all the jobs and it never went anywhere else.
Right.
So I kind of had a goal and I did it in stair stepping, become a world champion, learn how to fly cameras, and look for opportunities to break into the stunt world once my skill and expertise was to that level. And so it was
Gotcha.
just kind of always having that in my mind that that was a goal of mine and chasing it.
That's really cool. And it's really cool how you thought of that plan because I feel like I would have thought of it backwards. I would have figured out like I would have wanted to do the stunts and like how do I get there? But it sounds like but it seems like you were going more about the perfection of the art or at least trying to really get to know the
Yeah,
art.
the first decade of my career was I was just
Wow,
chasing the
cool. And at
pure
that point
art
you were
of
living in
human
Arizona
flight.
the whole time?
No, I did a couple years in Arizona, and then I moved out to Florida to open it was called the First School of Modern Skyflying, but the first free fly school on the East Coast, because so
Cool.
far it was just the West Coast. So I moved out to Florida for a few years, and eventually moved back to help some buddies open a drop zone in Lake Tahoe, California.
Wow. So
And
you've been in some
then
cool
by
parts of the
about year
country.
10, oh yeah, yeah,
Because these are fun
bouncing
places to
around.
hang out. These are outside. It's funny whenever I travel to anywhere, I ask Google or ChatGPT what the least touristy places for me to go find that are feel like the most authentic, that have their own kind of like I don't want to go to places where the locals are trying to cater to tourists. I want to go to the places where the locals are themselves, and I get to just see what that's like a little bit.
Right.
And I feel like the places that you're going is like America, America. Like not people trying to be what America is perceived at, but like people really just minding their own business and doing their own things and living their own lives and doing their own hobbies and passions. It's really really cool.
Yep. Yeah,
So
you
what was it
bet.
like? So opening the flight school in Florida. What's the process for
Yeah.
that? Is it crazy regulations, crazy insurance? Is it a million different, red tapes
None
and
of
bureaucracy?
none of
None?
the above.
Really?
No, I mean it was pretty simple.
I love Florida.
The skydive world's a pretty simple place. Well, it's just the skydive world period. It's
Okay.
that to answer that just very matter of fact, it's I made a deal with the skydive center that was in Florida,
Hmm.
and they were happy to receive me and my teammates to move out there and open a school and create a scene. So
Cool.
it's just making a deal with a local skydiving place. And yes, the adult me looking back should have done those things you said to protect myself, but as a young 20-something-year-old, you don't care. You're just like, I'm sponsored at the drop zone. I'm jumping all day, and I'm running a school.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So
Pretty crazy.
it's pretty carefree. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And now I saw that this year that stunts are officially on the was it the Emmy there's some award
Oscars.
list the Oscars. Yeah. So people can be
Yeah.
nominated for stunts now. That's awesome. It's good to get that
Yeah.
kind of recognition.
It's a great breakthrough for sure. It's not exactly what it sounds like. Like a stunt man is not going to get an award,
Okay. So
but
what is
a
it?
coordinator could.
Gotcha. Which you could do
I
too.
believe that the way I read it is what's that?
Which you could do as well, right?
Sorry.
You're a coordinator as well.
Yeah, yeah. I just meant it's not that you're not getting a reward for best stunt or something.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Gotcha.
But it's definitely we've been fighting since before I was even thinking about being a stunt man. They've been fighting to make it into the world of Oscars and stuff, and finally did it.
Yeah, yeah, it's cool, and it feels like it feels also like it's kind of breaking a little bit into the zeitgeist, into the culture, and it feels like
Yeah,
whether it's a couple of movies recently or just more conversations based on it, or stunt people turn to directors or actors, which is I feel like I've been reading about more and more. Um, it feels
yeah.
like
Like
the
the Fall Guy
appreciation.
movie
Yeah, yeah, and I believe
that did a
where
lot
was it?
for it.
Did you?
No, that did a lot for
Oh,
the
that did a
awareness
lot
of
for it. Yes,
breaking.
yes, yes. Definitely. And I
Yeah.
believe that the director of John Wick was also a stuntman originally. And so
Yep.
when he was bouncing around doing the promotions for his movies, he would talk about that quite a bit. I remember hearing that and thinking like this is awesome. What's the difference between how do you find the difference in satisfaction between coordinating and actually being part of the stunts?
I love both worlds. For me, whether it's the world of the Red Bull Air Force that I run or the world of Hollywood, I've always been a fan of. I'm not the only one that's done this, but kind of broke the mold a little bit. In a lot of times, it's either you're one or the other.
Hmm.
But ever since I started getting opportunities, I started kind of pleading the case of, because it's such a specialty thing, that aerial stunts, that is.
Yeah.
I always tried to fight to be the aerial stunt coordinator, but also a performer at the same time.
Hmm.
That way, I didn't have to get feedback from my team and just kind of trust what they're saying. I would have firsthand experience and knowledge of what was going on in the scene. So
Yeah.
then, as a coordinator, I could make changes from firsthand POV, not just talking to my team. So for me, though, it's the big picture of coordinating and seeing the very beginning conversation, some random phone call from a director, all the way to seeing it on the big screen. It's an amazing feeling. So I love the coordinating part of it. And all the way
Do you get
down to the Red
input?
Bull world and a simple, sorry.
Do you get input from do you work with the director as a coordinator or with the editor on
Yeah.
different scenes? Yeah.
Yeah. Every movie's different. Most of the time you're working directly with the second unit director,
Hmm.
not the first unit director.
Yeah.
Um, but it depends on what movie it is, say like the Mission Impossible one I just did. I'm right next to McHugh, the director, and Tom and Wade Eastwood, the second unit director. So that's one where it's like everybody's always collaborating together.
Yeah.
Other ones I've never even seen an actor or a director, and we just go on a skeleton unit, and they're like, "Here's the
Really?
scene, here's the storyboards." Yeah, so everyone is very different. It depends on, I think, how involved the scene is in the movie.
Gotcha. Yeah,
So
I
really,
was gonna say,
really
I feel
depends.
like the premise of a lot of the, Mission Impossible type movies, the premise is the action. So I feel like you're, and especially a lot of the big aerial stunts that they're famous for. I feel like they would almost need, at least some kind
Oh, they
of
do for those.
feedback.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. What's that set
yeah. When
like?
it's that
What's it like
level,
going to that set?
it's overwhelmingly awesome. It's a there's a lot going on, a lot of moving parts.
Does it feel
It's
like a
really hard to
city? Does it feel
explain
like a
until you.
town? Does it feel like, because I mean,
Oh
I
yeah,
feel
I
like
mean
most
every
people don't.
set's
Yeah, go ahead.
every set's very different. You might go film a scene that might even be a massive scene in a movie, and it's just 20 people because you're just trying to film a thing, or you
Hmm.
might show up and there's 250 people on set, and it's a mini city. Like you said, so
Right.
it's every time it's different, but it's always that's what I like about it is diversity. It's never rinse repeat.
Yeah.
Every day is something new, different.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I saw from the credits that I saw from your credits that there was a pretty cool variety in terms of different size productions or budgets or studios or even the type of movies that how stunt focused they were going to be. Um,
Right.
the Unridables. Did you
Yeah.
what is that? That was so cool. I watched the trailer. I
What
didn't watch
is that?
I didn't watch the movie. I have to watch it. I didn't have time
Yeah.
since last night, but I watched the trailer for it and I was like, I absolutely need to sit on my couch and watch this all the way through. It looks remarkable.
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah, it
can
was
you walk me
fun.
through it?
So what the Unridables, the Alaska Range is, it's a documentary that was with Red Bull Media House. And so basically, to back up before getting into the movie, what the sport is somewhere back in the early days, skydivers started finding out that if they jumped over mountains and flew their faster parachutes down mountains, it was a lot of fun.
Hmm.
Paragliders were realizing instead of just running off a mountain and soaring on thermals, that if they flew smaller wings and flew down terrain, that was fun.
Hmm.
And so eventually the two sports both kind of at the same time started figuring out, hey, in the winter, if we put skis on, we can easily like get enough speed to get a parachute over our head and then start flying. And so it was basically a combination of big mountain skiing meets skydiving meets paragliding. And it was a really small group of people, just like the small group that invented free flying when I started, that had a vision of like, hey, there's something more than just like the Yahoo backyard thing.
Yeah.
And so the sport started developing, and I was one of the early people that started on the skydive side that started going to mountains because I grew up skiing, so I love skiing. So a group of us would go out and explore, flying parachutes down mountains with skis on or with skis off in the summer where you're running.
Okay.
And so I pitched to Red Bull years before the movie. Hey, I want to go do a project. I want to go to Alaska, back to my home, and go fly some of the biggest mountains that I used to stare at as a kid, but were never skiable because they closed in like couloirs or glaciers or cliffs. So
Yeah.
nobody's ever skied them, but there's sections that look amazing.
Yeah.
But now we have a sport that I can go ski this area and at any
Oh my
given
God,
moment
it's
fly
so
away
cool.
from it. Yeah, so at first Red Bull's like, what is this sport? What, just kind of like what you're doing. Like, I never even heard of this. So at first they said no, love the passion, we may come back to it. No. Years later, I get a phone call from a marketing manager at Red Bull that was in the Alaska region. It's like, hey, I came across this old proposal you pitched. Do you still want to do this? And to skip through a bunch of that conversation, I was like, hell yes, I do. And so his vision was to blow it up way bigger. I just wanted to go on an athlete project. Well, he wanted to make
Mhm.
a documentary about it because by that time, the sport was getting traction. There was people in Europe starting to do it,
Cool.
America, all around the world, small little groups were doing it. So what the film really is it's me and a few of my teammates, and it's the story is told through my eyes, but it's not about me at all. It's kind of a quick summary of the history of speed riding and how it came to be.
Okay.
And they follow us on a fun journey in Alaska to kind of tell the story. But we
Mhm.
also go to Chamonix, France, because that's where some of the real innovators were pushing the limits and things
Sure.
of that nature. So it's the story of how this weird sport speed riding came to life.
Wow. Yeah. I remember watching it. I was watching it and I was just like, I'm trying to comprehend what's going on, what's going on at one time and how like the sport makes sense because I was trying to figure out is the emphasis going to be on the skiing or on the gliding,
Flying, yeah.
and the flying. Yeah. And
Well, it's a little bit of both. Everybody takes it different. Like somebody like me that loves skiing and I'm pretty good at it.
mhm,
The hardest part of the sport is to stay on the ground skiing, but at the same time while you're skiing, you're flying a wing that wants to screw up and mess with you if
yeah,
you're not paying attention to it. So
right,
the hardest part is the riding, the speed riding part. But a
right.
lot of people that aren't that good as skiers want to go fly big mountains and they touch down sometimes, but they're mainly
That's
flying, then they touch back down. And so there's no exact recipe of what's wrong or right, but it
mhm,
allows people to explore big mountain terrain with the safety net of a parachute. So step one is you got to know how to fly a parachute, whether
yeah.
you're a skydiver or a paraglider.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I guess the amount of people that have access to the sport is pretty limited, but I feel like I feel like it's also it's like it's exploratory. Like you could totally, like you mentioned earlier, like these are places that you never had any like no one ever thought could be skied, and so to kind of break those
Right.
grounds is really awesome. Where else have you traveled to for either purpose, for skiing or for jumping, like globally?
Oh, I mean, all over. I've done a whole bunch of all the different Alps in Europe. Italy,
Yeah.
Switzerland, France, Norway, New Zealand.
Any of these
Obviously,
places
my
stick
Alaska
out for any
world.
particular reasons?
Well, there's this one ski resort called Valfrejus, France, which is
Mhm.
about an hour and a half out of Turin, Italy, but it's in France.
Okay.
It's the mecca for it because that ski resort has adopted it to the point where they've designated a massive part of their mountain for speed riding only. So there's a great speed riding, actually a couple, but a great speed riding school there. So whether you're somebody that's never flown a wing in your life or never skied, you'll see people like that show up, all the way to
Wow.
people like professional skydivers that want to learn to do it better. So it's a place you can go to and learn how to do it and get really good because you can just do laps because the ski resort allows you to do it. So you can go up a chairlift. Right when you get off the chairlift, you launch your wing, fly down, put it in a
you
bag, get back on the chairlift. So just like skiing, so you can
Yeah,
really do a lot.
get your reps in.
Um, and every place, what's that?
You get your reps in, your
Yeah,
repetition.
and yeah,
Yeah.
when it comes to learning any sport, reps is important. So to get good at it, that's the place that really stands out. But then when it comes to pure thrills, and what I really love is there's nowhere like Alaska. It's some of the biggest terrain in the world, and it's just really unique features and a special place in my heart. But Norway was some of the craziest, most dynamic, big, in the fjords, the big rock walls and stuff to fly down. I got stories for days, but I've been
It's
pretty
amazing.
spoiled in
It's
my
so cool.
travels.
It's
But
so cool that you got. It's what's so cool to me is just that a couple of these decisions to make a couple of out of the box choices, led to you being like it was such it's such serendipity, to give you to give you the opportunity to even think that this is a lifestyle that you're capable of living, is awesome.
yeah,
I think about that a lot. How can I set my kids up in a way that they feel encouraged to. I got like a 2.5-year-old and a 3 month
pursue
old,
their
and so
passions.
yeah, and I want them to be able to like live a life
It's
that's
tricky.
meaningful. Yeah, but without being a totally irresponsible
It's
doofus.
super
I think that
tricky.
there's a middle ground. Um, it's a tough one.
There's definitely a middle ground, but I mean, I tell people a lot that the first handful of years of me chasing my dream, I didn't care about the money part. I
Hmm.
wasn't trying to. I didn't have a family. I wasn't trying to like provide. I didn't. I just wanted to be able to do what I was doing for free and make enough to eat. And my only goal was to do more of what I
What you were
loved.
doing, yeah,
And not everybody can do that. A lot of people roll into life and you have to pay rent, pay bills, do all these things, and it's hard to be like, well, I don't care if I make money or not. So it's not
yeah,
easy for sure. And there's definitely moments in my young career where I'm in an airplane climbing to altitude and it's a beautiful thing, but I found myself thinking like, oh shit, what did I do with my life? Like I'm not making much money. Like I'm having fun, but oh my God, like I'm getting old. Like, what am I doing?
yeah,
And then every time I kind of luckily had those kind of thoughts, some opportunities would come my way within a few weeks or months and kind of
yeah.
remind myself why I'm doing it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think a lot of life is like that. I think a lot of things. It's almost like when you buy a car and then and then you start seeing it everywhere on the road and you never noticed them beforehand.
Right? Like, damn it.
Like you start. Yeah, exactly. So I feel like also, there's been times in my life where I'm like waiting for where I realize that something I either something I'm looking for something deeper or more, or there's a better opportunity or something, and by the time that thought actually like starts settling in my head and like with me and it's to the front of my consciousness, you know, you keep an eye out for whatever opportunity to kind of let that happen. Does
Right.
technology and AI and stuff like that scare you in terms of the future of stunt work in general, especially with
Oh,
studios,
for sure. Yeah.
being able to implement it? Do you
Yeah.
have any
Like
thoughts on
mad.
it?
I see it a lot already. Yeah. I mean, I already see it a lot already where, um, like in the stunt world, they call it doing it practical, like doing it for real.
Mm-hmm.
So you find it's having a comeback. The doing stunts practical is having a comeback. There was definitely an era of like way too much CGI going on, and AI and all the computer graphics. There's
Yeah.
definitely a happy medium. Like any movie needs a little bit of everything, but
Hmm.
it's like say I did a movie. I did a few rock movies, like just to name one, like Rampage or San Andreas, both of them.
Hmm.
I had to get a guy that was the right size and shape,
Yeah.
but it didn't look anything like The Rock. So they did face replacement. And
Yeah.
that's a really simple example, but already they really didn't need a certain, person. They just needed a 6'4" guy,
Yeah.
stuff
Sure.
like that. And then all the way to like the Transformers movie I did was with Michael Bay way back in the day. That was one of the early ones where the first half of our wingsuit scene flying through Chicago was practical. But you
Okay.
see in an instant, the second CGI kicked in, you can tell, and it made the stunt feel like, okay, wait a
Was
minute,
the
was the
Iron
whole
Man suit
thing
like that?
fake? A lot of the Iron Man stuff, I mean, a majority of that was practical. We shot almost everything practical. the CGI that was added on was like making the suit look like we even had a suit, but it didn't look anything like the one you see in a movie in the
Okay.
sense of shiny and this and that. So they went in and dressed that up, made it look good, put in boosters, like that kind of look. But the guy I had be Iron Man was in an Iron Man suit. All the free fall stuff was real.
Wow.
Like the everybody getting dropped into the water and stuff was all practical, like on zip lines and things, getting slammed into the water. But that was a good one where it was a healthy combo. It was like
Yeah.
everything was practical enough that everybody knew it was shot for real. The foo-fooey FX stuff was needed because it's a Marvel movie, but it didn't. There was no fakery in like the
Yeah.
jumping and stuff. That was all real deal.
Yeah.
And
I
then,
remember
like I said, the
talking.
Point Break movie was a little dis.
Go
Oh, go
ahead,
ahead.
please. The Point Break movie. There's a little bit more.
Oh, just the last example is like the Point Break movie is a funny one to me because our sequences 100% was practical, no
Mhm.
CGI in it. But because of a few lens choices and editing styles, like they put shake in it, they did like make the background get blurry and things, but all the flying, not one part of it was faked or green screened. But
Wow.
nobody thought that it was real, all the way to the point of like the Taurus Stunt Awards, where the stunt guys get awards. It's our one like award show of the year.
Hmm.
The board that votes on everything didn't want to consider it as a stunt because they didn't believe it was shot for real.
I was going to ask how you
And
even
that's what
know
happens
whether
when
that's
there's too
real or
much
not.
mixing going in.
How do you tell? Can you tell? Can I tell if I'm watching whether stunts are practical or not?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I mean, it
Gotcha.
really, there's no direct answer to that. There's so much that goes into it. I
Yeah.
mean, you can easily tell when things are fake, that's for sure.
Yeah, you could. You could. And the reason I asked about Iron Man in particular is because I have a good friend of mine, and we were talking, and we've been talking for years about how we feel how it feels that the CGI is being a little overdone in the big cinematic worlds, whether it's Marvel, DC, whatever it was, and we're saying how we miss the Iron Man days where it feels just real enough to like that it's like potentially could be true, like this big bulky suit could
Right,
exist to like this stupid nanotechnology where it just
right.
like pops on his head, and you're like, okay, well, I guess we're really checking reality at the door over there. So it's cool that you got to that you got to be part of that leg of authenticity. It's a lot of fun. And what about
Yeah,
I read about your accident on your site, 100
oh
mile
yeah,
an hour crash.
yeah.
What happened? Would you rather
Which
pass on
accident?
that? Oh yeah.
Oh no, no, I said which accident? The
Yes.
one, the most recent one, like on my Instagram,
I
like my
don't
bad one where I broke
know.
myself
No,
into pieces, or
I saw it on your website while I was reading through about it said that it was a
oh,
hundred.
so
Yeah, go ahead.
yep, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, so a long time ago, that was in, God, I'm going to guess a little bit, but 2001, 2002, something like that. One of my first ever stunt jobs was for a Disney movie that never even made it to the screen. So they
Okay.
canceled the movie, but yeah, long story short on that, I was jumping out of a helicopter at like skydive altitudes with skis on, and the idea was to free fall with skis, eventually pull a parachute, land on the mountain, ski away. And we'd been doing it for a couple of weeks, and it wasn't. I mean, it's challenging, but it wasn't that it was like a one and done thing. It was pretty easy, but without getting technical, I basically, when you pull your parachute, you pull what's a little round pilot chute that actually pulls your parachute out.
Hmm.
So when I went to pull that, it didn't do what it was supposed to do. So I was fiddling with it. And by the time I got it out, the lines came out and wrapped around my skis and boots and bindings and everything, and basically hog-tied me up. And I took that into the ground from 6,000 feet without a parachute open. A little bit of a parachute came out, so I had like trash above me, but there was no deployed parachute. So I took that basically in really close to free fall speeds straight into the ground, and strangely and miraculously, I didn't break a bone. I didn't get hurt at all. I was kind of like laying there for a little bit, thinking I was dead, but I was able to get up and walk away from it, which was a miracle.
That sounds crazy. What was go? Do you
Yeah,
remember?
it
You remember
is crazy.
that train of thought while that was happening? Do you remember your train of thought like, oh no, oh no, oh no, and then
Yeah.
like it going black? Or you remember like what was the what was the thought process like?
No, I remember everything. Most of my I was pretty newly married, and most of my thought process was being worried about my wife
Yeah.
and largely about that. And then it would flash to like, oh my God, what are my parents going to think? And then worried about my wife. And that was almost while I was dealing with the malfunction. That's almost where my thought was. The dealing with
Yeah.
the malfunction was pretty muscle memory, even though
Okay.
it wasn't working because I was all tied up. Um, yeah, that was
And then
pretty
the
much the
crash,
entire thought
and
the
then
whole way down.
did you black out the crash? Do you don't remember it or?
No, no, that's why I kind of feel like I live in a parallel universe right now because it was all black. I remember hitting,
Yeah.
and then everything was black, but I had like the dialogue going on in my mind. So I was still talking to myself,
Mm-hmm.
and
Sure.
that's where I remember having feelings. Without getting deep into it, I was having feelings of excitement of going like. I remember thinking to myself, "Oh, there is more. Something's coming," because I know I'm dead, but I'm still having a conversation with myself. And I
Wow.
remember getting excited of like, okay, what's coming? What's next? What is it?
Yeah.
But then eventually the other stunt guy, about 2 minutes later, because his parachute actually worked, so it took a while to get to me, he landed next to me. And the sound of him landing, I will open my eyes.
Wow.
And then I realized I was alive, and I did the whole wiggle your toes, your everything, and didn't feel any pain. So I sat up and realized I was fine.
That's crazy. That's a miracle. That's like, I mean, that's
Yeah, one hundred
crazy.
percent.
It's so funny. I mean, I don't know or what your religious belief is or not, but I feel like there have been moments in my life where God has just like yelled at me, or like I've just had like an experience that's just been like God being like, yo, like, like snap out of it for a minute, dude. And I'm like, whoa,
Right.
like, yeah, I need to snap out of that, and even something stupid like there's one time I was pushing myself way too much. I was biting off more than I could handle, I think, in my life and responsibilities, and I was driving from one place to the next, and I'm doing a podcast, and I have three in one day, and I have my sales job, and I'm going to teach, and I'm running late for class, and and I'm pulling out of a parking lot while like doing all this, and a car, and while I'm pulling out, a car pulls out too, and like nips my car, I guess, gives me like a little fender bender. There wasn't bad damage, it wasn't a big deal, but like it just like pulled me out of it for a second. Like you just feel like, there's like a mask over your head and like you can't breathe, and then you just like pull it off. And whoa, like I got to balance. I got to figure something out. I feel
Yeah.
like, I've had moments
Snap
like
back
that
to
where,
reality.
yeah, and and I think that is God being, and I don't know what God is or who or what or anything like that, but I think there's something, man. I don't know what it is,
Yeah.
but whatever it is, it's spoken to me,
Yeah.
and I feel like,
There's, yeah,
yeah.
I agree, man. There's higher power for sure.
Yeah, and the human meteor flight, the thing where people, I don't know if I understood that properly. Was that people thought that people were seeing people do stunts and thought they were UAPs or thought they were
Oh,
UFOs
gotcha.
or anything like that?
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Yeah. It's funny. Every time we do a night jump, we have pyrotechnics on our feet.
Okay.
And because the way we're so high up and because the way we fly,
Hmm.
it's kind of unexplainable. No aircraft would be maneuvering like we are. So anybody that is hoping for UFO type sightings, the second they see that, almost every town we ever do it in, there's the news gets called, the 911 gets called, and people are like, "There's no way, there's no airplane, there's no helicopter, there's nothing that could maneuver like that." That
does,
kind of
does that
stuff.
make you
So
more
it's
skeptical
always just a
about the whole
funny
UAP
thing.
thing? No, being in the background like that?
Oh yeah, for sure. But I'm not too skeptical because I don't know if they've come to our planet, but I'm a firm believer there has to be other life out there. We can't be alone in this
Yeah, I believe
massive
that too.
universe.
I believe that too. I think there's two true statements happening concurrently. There's other life, and then there's what we're perceiving as happening, which could be a dude like you, taking off from Florida in the middle of the night, and me not knowing what the heck that is in the sky. And I think they're both truths. What do you like? Do you like day jumping or night jumping more?
I mean, in general, day jumping just because it's you
Safer?
know I guess it's more the norm. But night jumps are super special. It depends on what you're doing. Most of the time, a night jump for me in my world is I'm doing shows, so it's more about just like the performance of what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's a rare day that I go out to a drop zone and just do a night jump for fun.
What's the show like? What's the show?
Because it's
What's the show like?
they're all a little bit different. It depends on what we're doing it for.
Okay.
Like if you go to my Instagram handle, one of the last ones I posted is we jumped into Sun and Fun, a huge air show in Florida, in Lakeland, Florida,
Hmm.
and we did a show where we have an airplane that dives at a pretty steep angle, and it
Okay.
was shooting fireworks out the side of it, and we're flying wingsuits with the pyro on us, chasing and slaloming through the fireworks. So the
Wow.
crowd is seeing all this from the ground.
So cool.
That kind of stuff, wearing glow suits.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's the
Fun,
coordinating
just
process for
it's
that
all
like?
fun show stuff.
What's it like to coordinate that?
It's step by step. Yeah, it. I mean, air shows are a little different animal, but in general, like our demo team, I'll coordinate all the FAA stuff. So for me, it's just plug and play. It's just collecting the proper information, filling out forms, sending
Hmm.
it in, getting it approved in time, that kind of stuff, and then putting together the right team to go to it. So there's a whole stair step process of coordinating it to happen. But by now, I've been doing it so long, it's pretty
I
plug and
imagine it's a
play.
pretty small world, right? It's a pretty small, aerial sport world as far
Yeah.
as knowing one another and like, getting a team together and whatever.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for all the shows I do, demo wise, it's all the Red Bull Air Force team. So I've assembled over the years. We're a 9-man skydiving team, so that's who I use for all the shows. But yeah, the sport's small enough that whether it's the stunt world that I need to branch out for my Red Bull team, or we're doing a demo that's bigger than what we already have as a team, it's a small
Yeah.
little pool of people I'll phone call. Yeah.
And can you tell me about your career with Red Bull a little bit? How'd that get started, or what do you do with them, or
Yeah. 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 So it's been a really long, amazing, fun ride. So I was lucky enough through two of my teammates and friends at the time, Charles Bryan and Mike Vale. So Red Bull moved to America roughly in 96, 97, and they went to the Vail Aspeny world of skiing and
Mhm.
Lake Tahoe as kind of their test markets to see if their product would even work in America.
Mhm.
And they started sponsoring a few athletes. And luckily, Red Bull gives you wings, or we
Yeah.
might not have a
So-
sponsor. But so they picked up some skiers and a couple skydivers and base jumpers. And then luckily, at the time, I was still super young, but I was already like world champion skydive guy with a big name. And so, right place, right time, met the right people. And I officially signed on with Red Bull in '99 as a contracted hat wearing athlete.
There you go.
And so in the first few years, the team was kind of a mix of some skydivers, base jumpers, paragliders. It was loosely run by everybody in the beginning, but then one of the paragliders, Othar, kind of took the reins to be like, hey, let's get more organization behind the team instead of just being individuals on their own mission.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
that lasted a few years. And then he stepped down from that role, and I quickly stepped up into it because I was already helping him coordinate stuff. So when he stepped down, I fully took over managing and team captaining the Red Bull Air Force. And one by one, I was able to bring on kind of my really good friends or slash teammates that I'd met in skydiving. As the brand grew, they wanted the team to grow. So I was able to kind of grow the team into more than just a few people.
Sure.
And now we're one of the most heavily used marketing tools for Red Bull. So whether it's jumping into an F1 race or a weird party or everything in the middle, we do 50 plus shows a year all around the world as just demos. And then Red Bull also supports, athletes in a really unique way where they want athletes to pitch dream projects and missions. And a lot of them are no's, or we don't have time for that or the bandwidth for it. But every now and then one's a yes, and you get to go fulfill an
Yeah.
athlete dream and go do a project. So it's been since '99 till now, 25, 6 years of living dreams.
Are there so what are some type of typically, and I'm not asking your personal, but like typically speaking in a contract when they sign on an athlete, they want minimum amount of events or displays or performances a year, or is how does that work from their end?
Every
What do they want from you?
Yeah, there's not a generic template. I can't really speak on how they deal with snowboarders, skateboarders, all the other sports.
Sure.
They're in every sport on the planet.
Hmm.
And so I really don't know how those athlete contracts work.
Right.
But in general, we're a little bit different because a lot of athletes are just sponsored to go do what they do as an athlete.
Yeah.
But we're a heavily used marketing team as well with all the shows we do.
Mm-hmm.
So we're a little bit different where, yes, we have a certain like athlete contract that, they subsidize financially us to some level. But then we also, go and do jobs and go do shows and things of that nature. So it's there's not
Yeah.
a direct answer to there's
I
not a
gotcha.
cookie
I
cutter
gotcha.
template.
Yeah, I was curious about because I didn't. Yeah, my association I feel like with Red Bull is soccer and then the other sports that you were describing, like skiing and aerial sports and stuff like that. What who are some
Right.
of your role models in the either film world or sports world that kind of either motivate you or inspire you?
That's a good question. I mean, I
It could
wish
be
I had
creatively or
obvious
as an
answers. I don't
athlete.
really. Yeah, I mean, in the stunt world, I have a few second unit directors that I super look up to. That after working with them, I really realized that they both came from the stunt world. They were just traditional ground and pound stuntmen, worked their way up to being coordinators,
Yeah.
turned into really successful second unit directors, and
Hmm.
now we're going into directing. I've watched their career progress so amazingly. It's like Wade Eastwood and Jeff Haberstatter too. That really stand out.
Hmm.
They're really big, famous second unit directors these days, but they also just started like any traditional stunt guy that had a vision beyond just doing stunts. So
Yeah.
to kind of watch their stair step is really impressive. And then in the world of like sports directly, it's really, I don't have direct names, but just anybody that's not afraid, like whether it's in the surf world, I've watched, Kai Linney go from being a too young to even be sponsored young surf kid up to who he is today and just always being innovative and
Hmm.
not being stuck in a rut and
Yeah.
doing things different in his own way is really impressive.
Yeah.
To in the skydive world, where it's like people that have just learned how to chase their dreams and not just get pigeonholed into one corner. So I don't really have a name. It's just
Sure. Sure.
a long list of people. I should probably put you on hold for 2 seconds because my computer's about to die. I need
No
to grab my
problem at all.
plug, or
You
my
got it.
computer's
No
going to
problem.
die on you.
Let's
I'll
take
be
two
right back.
seconds. Sure. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that.
Yep.
Do you are you? Oh, that's what I wanted. One of the few things. The last couple of things I wanted to talk about. First of all, green screens.
Mm-hmm.
Does that? Do you hate them?
No, I mean they serve a great purpose, so I don't think there's anything negative about them. I think there's some things that it takes away from the being a practical stunt performance, but there's some things that's very much needed. So I don't have any hate for them by any means. Usually when I get hired, because I'm a specialty stunt guy, so I'm not just the traditional stunt man. So it's
Mhm.
usually they're hiring me because they want to go do it for real. They're not trying to fake it.
Yeah.
So I don't have even a ton of experience. I mean, I've been around it a lot, but I
I was
don't
going to
really
ask
have.
whether they ever ask you to do that. I feel like it'd be kind of a
Yeah,
waste of your skills, but I feel like,
I mean, I've
unless they
done
built
it.
some really cool chamber, indoor skydiving place that, they could, I guess, kind of use a lot of CGI for. But I can't imagine they bring you in to have you sit in front of a green screen, right?
Yeah, I mean, one of the coolest ones. It was the very first Iron Man when Iron Man was learning to fly a suit in his garage and he thrashed all his cars.
Yeah, sure.
And when he first flew and he flew by the Ferris wheel and the kids were licking the ice cream.
Yeah, sure.
So I met with Jon Favreau in the wind tunnel and we green screened all the glass of the tunnel. And without getting into how we did it, but we flew around in the tunnel for him to record everything. And then they took that and placed it on the Iron Man character. So things
Wow.
like my feet were tied to the tunnel wall and I'm in a flying tracking position and he would be in my ear and he'd be like, okay, now look left. What you're looking at is children licking an ice cream. And I had no idea what he's talking about. And then when the movie came out, I'm like, oh shit, that's exactly the scene we
Wow,
shot.
so cool.
Or then like I put a small or a big longboard skateboard on my feet in the tunnel because to lift in the air, you need to grab air. but he's like, Iron Man's hands are down and he's shooting. So how can we do that but then lift?
Yeah.
So what we decided was I'd put a board on my feet and we'd slowly turn up the wind, and eventually the wind's strong enough that the board would just lift me so I could keep my hands down. So little things
Wow.
like that. So sometimes green screen's super cool. But
And it's probably crazy watching that process back and then being like, oh, now I get it.
yeah, the coolest thing on that job, just to wrap that story up, is I was like, hey, I'm going to play around in here. So for like 2 minutes in the one tunnel, I'm just doing a freestyle routine, flying around, layouts, spinning, whatever. And then I come out of that, and the CGI guy instantly goes, come here. And he put me in his computer. And what should have just been a video of me flying in the tunnel, he laid over the Iron Man suit. And
Oh
so
man.
I saw then it looked like Iron Man, but everybody that skydives to my level has a certain style. You could be like, oh, that's so and so because look how his legs are or whatever. So I'm
Yeah.
seeing what's obviously me doing like helicopters and flips, but it looked like Iron Man. So to me, I was like, oh my God, please send me that. And he couldn't, but
Wow. He couldn't send it to you.
no, which was totally fine. But I was like,
Do your kids think what you do is the coolest thing in the world?
I think sometimes yes, sometimes no, but
Yeah. I
yeah.
hear. I and the one of the last things I wanted to talk to you a little bit about is actually circling back to the beginning in terms of family and where you're living in California, is Southern California. Um, First of all, do you have plans to leave Southern California? You or do you have
Are you
ambitions?
are you asking me or my wife?
Um, I guess your wife probably matters more in the decision, but I'll ask you because I'm talking to you.
Um, well, I'll just be honest with that answer. This is a place I never wanted to live. It's not who I am mentally, all that stuff. But the opportunities it provided me, I wouldn't be where I was at without living here. So
Right.
I'm not upset with the thing. But yeah, I've always had a goal of eventually once the kids grow up and move out. I think the real honest answer is we're going to hope my two daughters live in the same place and we move to wherever they live because we want to have that family life.
Sure.
But my desire is to move back to the mountain type world and be in that environment.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't want to be here forever, but it's served a great purpose.
I could imagine. Yeah, that's what I was gonna. Yeah, because I was talking to the previous gentleman that I was talking to. He was in Chicago, and he's like, for a couple of years I had to live in L.A. He goes, at a certain point, once I kind of got my name into the rotation, everyone knew who I was. I had a little bit more flexibility to kind of move around and and get out of that scene a little bit. Um,
Yeah.
but it's really, yeah. And I was gonna ask about that. Like, I mean. I know that it's practical for work, but don't you feel like you have a reputation, a name, you've been doing this for long enough that you could hypothetically live somewhere and travel more, or is it the travel that's going to
Oh yeah.
be,
Oh no, I could be gone years ago, but one,
gotcha.
I'm raising kids here, so I don't want to pull them out of school.
Hmm.
And my wife's an attorney with a big job, and she has her own career going on.
And
So
let her do her thing. Gotcha, gotcha,
yeah,
gotcha.
yeah,
Cool, 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 cool. Well, that's awesome. John, I really appreciate the time, man. Thank you so
yeah.
much
You
for
bet.
taking the time to talk to me today. This is such a pleasure. It's so cool to hear about this little world in the background. And I'm gonna text you when I watch that movie, The Unridables, because
Nice, sweet.
I'm really excited about that. But this is so cool, and I really appreciate your time, and I love what you've been working on. I love what your career has become. And how long does a stunt career last usually?
I would say right about in my age is where most either stuntmen are slowing down a lot or trying to transition into coordinating and not taking the hits.
Yeah,
But it's a real ground and pound stuntman career is a young man's game. You
yeah,
get beat up, whether it's just taking falls or hits or fight scenes, whatever.
yeah.
So somewhere in the young 40s, you'd hear most stuntmen trying to figure out either up leveling the job title or moving on.
And you think you'd like to stay in if you had to choose between the sports world and the coordinating or the entertainment world, which do you enjoy more?
That's a tricky one.
Like
That's a tricky one. I
if you
would
could be
never.
directing movies tomorrow, or you could
Yeah.
be, a big part of the sports coordinating, for the whole sport and being an ambassador for it. Is one
Yeah,
strictly
probably the answer to that is if I had to pick one,
yeah,
as long as I could still skydive for fun. um, I think I would have a dream of being like second unit directing, you know, some dream movies that I have in my mind. That would be an amazing end of the career. You know, kind of put out some movies that I've always wanted to try to pitch to the right people.
Yeah. Well, if you ever do, let me know. I'd love to. I would love to watch
Yeah,
them. I'd love to see
you
what
bet.
comes out of them. John, thanks so much for the time, man. I really appreciate it. Best of luck with everything, man. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.